welcome to the channel, and this is another Build Around the World, part of my Build Around the World series, in which we build a architectural style or a landmark or anything at all really from a certain country. So today it is South Korea, and I really wanted to focus on the capital city of Seoul. I think that's how you pronounce it. But yeah, so I was really inspired by the alley buildings that are in the city, and some of them do look more traditional than others. I went with a more modern looking Seoul alley buildings or residential buildings. There's also a few community buildings here because I noticed in some of the alleys there are like restaurants or little shops and things like that, so I kind of wanted to add that in. And sorry you guys for not uploading this on Saturday. I don't think I'm gonna have a schedule for these because some of the builds I'm sure will be more elaborate than others, so make sure to check on Twitter. If you don't follow me, you can follow me at IrrelephantSims, and I'll let you all know like what's going on with the build, when it'll be posted and things like that. I want to try to get it out every week, but sometimes it's just not possible, so yeah, but I'll always let you know what's going on. So the reason why I wanted to do this first is because presently South Koreans have a very urban lifestyle, and half of the South Korean population actually live in high-rises concentrated mostly in Seoul, which is their capital. And supposedly about 25 million residents live in Seoul alone. And the capital has the 5th largest economy and is the 7th most sustainable city in the world, which I thought was kind of interesting. The earliest Korean artifact is pottery that dates to 8000 BC, with 3 kingdoms in the 1st century BC, and the name Korea actually comes from one of those 3 kingdoms, Goguryeo, which was one of the great powers during its time. Since the unification of the Korean kingdoms into later Silla and Balhae in the 7th century, Korea had about a millennium of relative peace under long-lasting dynasties. Koreans developed improved versions of many innovations like the metal movable type printing press, which was used to print and publish the Jikji, which was a printed paper book in 1377. Yeah, 1377. In the 15th century, Koreans had one of the highest living standards in the world, and Sejong the Great invented Hangul to promote literacy among Koreans, which enabled anyone to learn to read, to write, and to write rather than spending years learning ancient Chinese, which was a lot more complicated. In 1910, Korea was annexed into Imperial Japan, so the country's current political structure dates to 1919, when the Korean Provisional Government was organized in Shanghai, China, as a government in exile. Despite early intentions of a unified Korea, the 1943 Cairo Declaration escalated the Cold War between the Soviet Union and the US, which eventually led to separate governments. After Japan's surrender in 1945, Korea was actually separated into the 38th parallel with the US controlled southern part, and the First Korean Republic was created on August 15th, 1948. However, a North Korean invasion led to the Korean War, which was between 1950 and 1953, 2 years later. As far as culture goes, South Korea shares its culture with North Korea. However, the two have developed a unique kind of contemporary form of their ancient culture since the two were divided in 1945. Historically, while the culture of Korea has been heavily influenced by China, Koreans have, like I said before, developed this kind of unique identity that's distinct from both North Korea, and China. Korean traditional architecture is described to have like this harmony with the nature that surrounds it. Ancient architects had a bracket system with a thatched roof and heated floors called ondol. The upper class built bigger homes with elegant and curved tiled roofs with lifting eaves. Traditional architecture can be seen like in the palaces and the temples and preserved old homes called hanok. I think I'll revisit South Korea again and try to build a hanok because I think for South Korea and some other countries it's important to kind of show the traditional aspect of it as well as current architecture. So I just have to say Korean food is absolutely delicious, and there's actually a high population of Koreans that live in Dallas, Texas. When I lived there, I was pretty much blessed by a little Korea there and all their delicious food and drinks. One of my favorite dishes is bibimbap, which is basically a bowl of white rice topped with sauteed veggies, chili pepper paste, soy sauce, like a fermented soybean paste, a raw or fried egg, and sliced meat, which is usually like beef, and it's marinated and it's so good. Oh, it's so good. Another one of my favorite Korean dishes is Korean barbecue, which the meat is often like grilled or heated on these grills that are built into the dining table. Most, if not all, Korean meals include what's called banchan, or side dishes. There's a lot of them, and the first time I went I was kind of overwhelmed, honestly, but it's so good and everything tastes good together. And some side dishes are only there to kind of like cleanse your palate before you eat other things, so that way you kind of get the full flavor of things and not just like all the flavors like mixed together in a way. Probably one of the most famous music genres to come out of Korea is K-pop, and some of my favorite K-pop groups are BTS and Astro. And I actually haven't been listening to K-pop for a very long time, so I'm sure there's others that are amazing. So definitely let me know down below if you listen to K-pop and who I should check out, because I'd love to give them a listen. I'm always up for listening to new music. As you can probably tell, I've been putting these cabinets like above the beds, and what I noticed from like apartments and homes in South Korea is that because the homes and the rooms are really small, they have to be really smart with their storage and like organization. I feel like a lot of their furniture looks very IKEA-like. I'm not sure if there's an IKEA there, but or if there's like a South Korean equivalent to an IKEA. But basically all the furniture is very clean, very minimal, and from what it seems like, everyone kind of has this idea of, you know, using their space wisely and efficiently. And I also noticed that a lot of times there's really no like paint on the walls. I noticed in a lot of apartments and homes in South Korea, the walls are just white. I'm not sure if that's because, you know, if you're renting, you can't paint the walls or anything, or if that's just a aesthetic thing that South Koreans like, is to just have plain white walls. I'm not really sure, but that's just something I observed in my pictures. Either plain white walls or paneling, like what I did here in the room. I felt like that was also pretty popular too, like having these wide wood paneling in bedrooms or living areas or things like that. Little tiny desks and shelving units and things like that were also pretty popular. So I tried to include that in all the rooms. And the reason why this build took so long was because I was thinking about just furnishing one residential building and calling it a day, but I felt kind of obligated to furnish all the buildings because I didn't in the Amsterdam build. I just furnished the bottom floors of each building. So yeah, so all of the buildings are furnished. I did cheat a little bit with some of them, like you might have seen the warehouse that's like right next to this one, because I noticed in one of the pictures I was referencing, next to a residential building there was like this building that had garage doors and like a glass overhang, a lot like the glass overhangs that came with Get Together. I think that's where they came from. But yeah, so it kind of reminded me of a little warehouse or storage facility of some kind, so that's what I wanted to put there. I also noticed in a lot of the South Korean builds, there's always this little area in the front of the building or where the front entrance was that you'd be able to kind of like sit and take your shoes off before entering the house. I think that's a very Asian cultural thing, like not just in South Korea but throughout Asian culture, and maybe even other cultures that I'm not aware of. But I think it's just to, you know, out of respect and to kind of keep the home clean, because, you know, you take your shoes off at the front and then you enter. So I think that's kind of how it is. So here I am placing the cabinets again. I use these cabinets a lot for, you know, for storage. They're not actually for storage, they're just for decoration, but I really liked what I did with this kind of media console looking thing. So I put the TV on top of the cabinets, and then I have kind of like shelves above the cabinets on the left, and I don't know, it reminds me so much of IKEA and like space saving solutions in a way. So I think that, you know, like I said before, that using space wisely and efficiently, I think, is pretty important to the Korean people. So this is a little girl's room, and I wanted to make it look really cute and youthful. I really loved using the little, I forget his name. They're like, I don't know, they just reminded me of Korean, like, little characters. There was a Korean store that was in Dallas that I went to a few times, and they had like the egg yolk character and the bear, I forget his name, but he's like this like really cute cartoon bear, and there's a few others, but yeah, it just reminded me of that, and so I wanted it to be kind of bright and colorful and reflect that in a way. This is the parents' room. It's very simple and it's very small, so I couldn't really fit anything else in there besides a bed and a nightstand. But I did put this like closet dresser right outside the room, so I figured they would just have all their stuff there. I think we are on to the next house, and I imagine that the person that lives here has, or like maybe it's two brothers or something like that. And everything is pretty simple in this home. Not really a lot going on. It just, you know, the basic necessities, bedrooms, and things like that. I mostly use the same layout I did in the other homes. Kind of have the kitchen on the bottom floor and then the living areas on the top floor. So this building, I imagine that it's a Korean barbecue or a hot pot restaurant. So I just placed a few tables. I ended up I deleted two of them so I could have room for the kitchen area. So if you guys wanted to, you could change this lot type to be a restaurant, and you know, you could visit this restaurant to your heart's content. And you know, as always, I always mention that I wish we had multiple lot types, or like the option to do multiple lot types for things like this. So, you know, you could set one part of it to be residential or one part of it to be a restaurant. I think that would be really cool. I don't know how they would go about doing that, but yeah. So the idea of putting these bowls in the middle of the tables is they kind of reminded me of the hot pot that they put in the center of the dining tables, or like the grills. Unfortunately, when you go into live mode, they have like the green smoke going, it's like, oh, this bowl is dirty. I wish it wasn't like that. I wish it was just a bowl, but it is what it is. It looked cool when I put it down. I also noticed in some alleys, they have these buildings, especially ones that are more commercial or like shops and stuff. They have these like tons of signs everywhere that are kind of hanging off the side of the building. So I kind of wanted to represent that. Like here I have a few signs hanging from the building, and yeah, so I tried to use the signs that came with City Living that look a little more Asian influenced to look like the characters, the Korean characters, or I mean they could also be Japanese or Chinese or anything like that. They're pretty general looking. So this little shop is actually a flower shop, and the few that I looked at online, there are, I guess, not too many flower shops anymore in South Korea. I don't know if, it's just people don't buy it a lot or what, but the few that I did see, they're really cute, and they're like filled to the brim with plants and flowers and things like that. So I thought it would be cute to add one into my my build here. So like I said before, some countries will revisit a few times depending on the varied amount of architectural styles in the country, or if we get to it. There is a lot of countries to get through, so don't worry if yours isn't picked right away. We'll get to it eventually. So I think moving forward, if you all could give a like to a country that's already suggested in the comments to kind of move it up in the comments so I can see it, I think that would help me a lot to kind of know what you all want to see next, instead of just, a bunch of the same comments scattered about in the comments. South Korea actually had the most likes in the last video, so that's what I went with this time. I do have other countries written down that you guys have suggested in previous videos, so if it doesn't work out that way, I'll just pick at random from my list of countries that you all have already suggested, and we'll just move along in that way. So yeah, but depending on the size of the build, it may not be up every Saturday, but I'll definitely let you guys know on Twitter what's going on with them or when they'll be posted. But definitely let me know down below what you guys would like to see next, what country you want to see, or what specific part of that country you'd like to see. And don't forget to like the comments that you want to see get up there in the comments, or get up higher in the comments. And yeah, but thank you guys so much for watching. I'm just gonna be doing these last few buildings. This building here is supposed to be like a more affluent person, I think. They kind of have a larger home and better looking furniture. The one on the right is just a one-story, and it's very, very small, and a lot of the living spaces are kind of in the same room. So that's what I was trying to portray in this one here. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. Bye, guys.